This video goes out to the people who are busy, maybe they just don't got a lot of time, who are on a deadline, or maybe just don't want to put in the extra effort if they don't have to. This video goes out to y'all. Hi, my name is Ray, and I've been making art YouTube videos for a very long time, and I've been making artwork for an even longer time. I'm very old. And over the years of doing all of these videos and doing all this artwork, I have found so many tips and tricks that make my life easier when it comes to creating artwork. And at this point, I've made so many different art hack videos to teach you how to save on money. But this time around, I'm gonna be showing you art tips that actually save on time and effort. And speaking of saving time, today's video sponsor matches so perfectly with the theme. It's kind of like all the stars aligned perfectly for this to happen. Today's video is brought to you by HelloFresh. I started this video out by telling you guys that I just don't have time for like literally anything anymore. And one of those things includes constantly trying to figure out every single meal that I eat. Well, HelloFresh has your meals covered with their weekly selection of 30+ recipes and 70+ convenience items, all delivered right to your door. And it's pretty impressive because every single HelloFresh recipe includes ripe, just picked produce that comes from the farm right to your door within a week. HelloFresh works with your schedule. You can change your meal preferences, update your delivery day, and even change the address anytime you want in the HelloFresh app. And I know that fall is one of the busiest seasons out there, but let me tell you, weeknights and cooking can be made so much easier with their foolproof, step-by-step recipes ready in about 30 minutes or less, giving you more time to do literally anything else in the world. HelloFresh is 72% cheaper than dining out or going grocery shopping for items that'll go bad faster than what you can actually use. HelloFresh offers veggie, pescatarian, and fit and wholesome meals to make it easier to stick to your goals. And off topic, this doesn't really have to do with the ad, but I just wanted to show you the 2 boxes that I have, one of which is like my actual HelloFresh subscription from my personal life because I actually use the service, which is why I'm so hyped that they reached out to me. And in my personal time, I use it to save on time, money, and just all around relieve the fatigue of having to constantly worry about my next dinner and plan everything out. This week, I made the plant-based protein rigatoni bake, which by the way, can we take a second to appreciate like just how beautiful it came out? So if you want to get in on this, go to HelloFresh.com and use code RaeDizzle16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. That's HelloFresh.com. Use code RaeDizzle16 to get 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. Alright, so thank you very much to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the lazy art hacks. Alright, so for this very first lazy art hack that I do, this is I don't know why this is embarrassing, but I feel like I shouldn't be admitting all this stuff to the internet because it's like, girl, you can't be lazy like this. But what I'm about to tell you, it truly saves on time and I personally prefer it. And on top of that, it's definitely not the cheapest option out there. But instead of buying regular everyday canvas, you can buy pre-gessoed canvas. Now, if you don't know what gesso is, it's basically like a primer before you put on your paint, and it helps the paint stick to the canvas longer, which is why it's so important to have gesso on your canvas. And whenever you do gesso, it's recommended that you wait up to 24 hours before even touching the canvas. So theoretically, if you were gonna paint on something and you were gonna do 3 layers of gesso, it would take you 3 full days before you can actually get to painting. And I'm the type of person that when I get that strike of creativity, I don't care if it's at 2 p.m. or 3 in the morning. I have to create right here, right now. But if you didn't know, you can spend a little bit more at the craft store and buy pre-gessoed canvas, which is yet another reason why I truly love using gesso board over canvas, because literally the gesso is already on it. All right, for this very next lazy art hack, this is one that has absolutely swept the nation ever since this product came out. And I'm sure a lot of you guys who have experienced this, if you know, you know. And this lazy art hack is that whenever you're doing a watercolor painting, instead of using just like a regular every single day brush that you have to constantly clean, add water, change out the water, no, we're done with that. Instead of doing all that work, you can just use a simple water brush. Now, if you don't know what a water brush is, they're literally one of the best things of all time. It's basically like a clear tube of water that you can squeeze, and at the end of it, it has a little paintbrush. And basically, that cuts out the entirety of having to dip your hand in a water bowl to be able to activate your watercolor. And because the fibers of the brush are made out of plastic, it makes cleaning the brushes an absolute breeze. And besides like having to refill the brush occasionally, it saves you so much time. It saves you so much effort. The only downside to these is that they definitely do have a learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, if you know, you know. So yeah, water brush for the win. Now for this next lazy art hack, this is one that I have seen all over the place on TikTok. I see this a lot when it comes to digital, and even on Twitter, somebody had suggested that I do this. And that is whenever you're drawing a portrait. I truly understand more than anybody else in the world how frustrating it is whenever you have one eye that's just absolutely beautiful, it's perfect, it's everything that you've ever wanted, and then when you go to draw the other eyeball, it ain't the same story. And so what the solution to that is that you can trace the very first eyeball that you drew. If you're doing this digital, obviously you can just make a new layer and then copy that directly on top of it. But if you're doing this traditional, basically how you would do this is copy it onto a new piece of paper, and then you get the freshly drawn eyeball, flip it around, and then just trace directly on top of that. And then bada bing, bada boom, you got both eyeballs completely symmetrical. And speaking of a lazy art hack, when somebody suggested this to me on Twitter, my mind was blown. Like, how could I have never thought about this before? How have I gone this long throughout my life without thinking about this before? Because this hack is the definition of work smarter, not harder. So every single time you paint, everybody knows that one of the most annoying chores when it comes to doing artwork is having to clean up a dried palette. You ruin your nails, paint flakes everywhere, and then on top of that, sometimes the paint stains, and then it never just fully gets clean. But somebody on Twitter suggested to me that they use saran wrap over their palettes. That way, when they're done cleaning, it's completely easy cleanup. And if you're not comfortable using saran wrap, you can use foil, you can use paper, a lunch baggie, you can use those papers that are specifically designed to be paint palettes. I mean, this tip is literally from the year 3000. All of us who are currently using paint palettes like this, we're stuck in the past because that is such a good idea. And in the long term, it'll preserve your palette so you can use it longer because it's not just getting constantly beat up all the time. And it's so good. And of course, the lazy aspect is that you don't have to clean up, like literally at all. Just throw it in the trash. So smart. Next up, we have a lazy art tip that I have been doing for quite a while, to say the least. And this actually started out of complete desperation and frustration. Because to me, as somebody who paints my portraits very, very slowly, there is nothing more frustrating than you mixing up the perfect skin tone, and then as you're working on the actual painting, that perfect skin tone that you spent hours and hours just trying to perfect completely dries up. And then you have to go through that entire process of color matching and then trying to figure out the exact colors that you used. And then it just never truly turns out the exact same as you wanted it originally. So my lazy artist solution is whenever you're painting a portrait, instead of using the paints that come standard in a packaging and having to go through all the effort of making your own skin tone, what I like to do is buy a gigantic tube of flesh colored paint. And I don't mess with it at all. Like if there's a shadow in the skin, I'll add one single brown to it. If there's a highlight in the skin, I will add one single highlight to the skin tone. Of course, if you want to get it to look super realistic and super colorful and add a bunch of undertones and stuff like that, you do you. But for us lazy artists out there, it's so much easier to use 3 different colors whenever you're making your portraits. For example, if you turn to the left, you'll see the Renaissance painting that I did. If you look at the bodies, you can see that I definitely used that method where I only used one single skin tone, shadows, and highlights. And thank God I did this method because this drawing took me like 6 days. But if I was to have made the skin tone every single time I was doing this giant canvas, it would have taken me months to do this painting. This is definitely, in my opinion, one of the easiest ways to hack painting skin tones. All right, so for this next lazy art tip, this one I have mentioned quite a few times throughout my channel's history. Hello Alice here on YouTube, such an incredible artist. I will definitely leave her channel down below. Ever since she showed me this hack, like I swear to God, that's the reason I've talked about it so much on my channel, is because it's just that good. And that is whenever you're doing watercolor drawings, it is an absolute pain in the butt to have to sketch out the drawing and then go over it with your kneaded eraser, but not too much so that you still can see the actual drawing, and then paint over it. Well, instead of using a regular number 2 pencil to sketch out your watercolor drawing, you can use a watercolor pencil. Because it's a watercolor pencil, the water will completely break down the pencil, and you don't have to worry about erasing the number 2 pencil lines and having those little marks show through your artwork. Ugh, I love this hack. It saves so much time and it makes the artwork come off a lot cleaner. 10 out of 10, get yourself some watercolor pencils. Even if they're at the Dollar Tree, get them. All right. Sorry, I cannot breathe. The Lord doesn't want me to continue this video, apparently. Now, this next one that I'm about to mention, I definitely wouldn't say that it's an art hack per se. It's more or less like a product that makes your life easier when it comes to cleaning up artwork. You know, whenever you're drawing, it doesn't even have to be drawing. It could be any time you use a number 2 pencil. You know that anytime you erase anything, it's very frustrating to have all those little shreds all over the place. And what do most people do with them? And once you do that, it ends up all over your carpet, all over the floor. If you don't immediately clean it with a vacuum, it gets stuck on your socks. It can like embed into the carpet and just all around. It's not the vibe to have eraser shreddings all over the place. So what the solution is this guy right here. So what this is a mini desk vacuum. And I think I literally got this for like maybe 10 bucks off Amazon or something like that. And anytime you're erasing and you have like this little pile of just like little eraser shreds or pencil shavings or whatever it is, broken pencils, you press the little button, he turns on, and all you do is just like drag it all over your desk, and he literally vacuums up the entire thing for you. And when you're done, all you do is like pop him open and just like dump him out, and that's it. And on top of that, he has a rechargeable battery, so you can keep using him over and over and over again. God bless this guy. And for this very last artist hack, this is one that I have been doing since college. This is something that I do probably more than I'm supposed to do, okay? So anytime I use charcoal, the very first thing that I like to start off with is the darkest areas of my charcoal drawings. So like anywhere on the charcoal drawing that is gonna be pure black, I will start with that first. But instead of filling it in with a charcoal pencil, which would take years to fill up a completely empty space with just a little tiny tip, I go out of my way and buy charcoal pastels. And then from there, I'll fill in the big empty areas first with charcoal. And it cuts down the time of making a charcoal drawing drastically. And the second reason that I do this is because whenever I'm working with charcoal, it can be kind of a pain in the butt to lightly draw and then blend it out, lightly draw and then blend it out. No, I don't got time for that. So what I do is I get the giant blob where I went in with the charcoal pastel, and I just get the blending tool and I'll dip into the areas that have the pastel on it, and I'll slowly build up the shadows that way. And basically what that does is it saves you so much time because you basically don't have to use the pencil hardly at all anymore. And of course, you know, if I need to use the pencil, it's there for whatever I need. And that's truly the secret of how I personally get my charcoal drawings to look as smooth as they do. It's literally just because I'm using a blending tool the entire time. So anyway, guys, that concludes our session today. So hopefully some of these tips were helpful to you guys. If you want to see more art hacks, I have an entire playlist. I've been doing this for years now, so I'll leave that playlist down below or like right here. Don't forget to check out HelloFresh. And again, thank you guys for sponsoring me. You guys are amazing. And yeah, let me know if you have any lazy artist things that you do. Put that down below. We can all expose each other together in the comments. And with that being said, thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you guys next video.